And we are back once again, round three of the new version of Irresponsibly Long. I'm your host, Steven, here with my good friend and options guru, Eric Johansson. How you doing today, Eric?
What's up, bud? What's up? We had a wild beginning of the week.
Oh my God, yeah. Once again, nothing to talk about. So we're recording this on Tuesday before FOMC. One of those episodes that's destined to age poorly very quickly, probably. But
Right.
we're gonna give it our best shot. Anyway, let's jump right into the chaos. We had one of the worst sell-offs I've ever seen on a market open Sunday night when the Nasdaq futures, S&P futures opened. I think we were down 5.5% at one point in a matter of just a couple hours, which is enormous in stockland. I know our crypto audience is like, what?
Yeah, 5%.
But I mean, that's got to be like a 3 or 4 standard deviation move, right?
It was massive, but I think like even more like surgically, it was like really in the semiconductor space where I'm like heavily invested, and the semiconductor index was down 19% yesterday, and I was like having flashbacks from the dot-com bubble that morning when like everything's down mid-teens percent. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, is this it? Is it over? Because like in the dot-com bubble, when that burst, you had like a similar open and then things ended down, like large caps ended down like 40% on the day.
Yeah, I mean, people are sort of asking the NVIDIA equals Cisco
Right,
question because that was
right.
kind of the mega pop of the dot-com era. I mean, this whole thing was so relevant to our life, I feel like, because on Saturday we were at a baby shower for you. Congratulations.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah.
And at said baby shower, we were talking markets. I was talking to a couple of your boys, and somehow the topic of NVIDIA came up. I forget exactly how we started talking about this, and I pinged my buddy F for a question, and in the course of this, he sent me this article he wrote um, on basically like the short case for NVIDIA. He's like, "Oh, I just wrote this," and I opened it, and it was like a 60-minute read. I'm like, "Oh my God." Uh, Jeff, who is at Doodlestein on X. Anyway, he wrote this thing. He's a super smart guy, and I started reading it. It was super interesting. And then shortly after I came home, I started seeing Jeff's article pop up all over Twitter. Chamath shared it. I think Balaji shared it. Naval shared it, and it just started going hyper viral. And I actually think that Jeff's article, I who I talked to at your shower, I think he broke the entire stock market with this article.
Yeah, I think he moved markets for sure.
Kind
I mean,
of kind of wild.
his piece was so well written, but I think like for those who didn't read it, the synthesis was basically just that like Nvidia is still crushing, but it's just like it's priced to continue crushing, and there's kind of like a risky move to invest in something when it's like priced for perfection already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to attempt to poorly summarize the findings of Jeff's immense article, which is just huge and super in depth. I mean, like the knowledge this man has like is truly staggering. And he's both a developer and a pretty goaty trader. He's worked at some hedge funds and has put on some really incredible trades. He's got some great trade stories. So this guy is like super autist with like specialties kind of covering all the areas involved. Like he's really in the weeds of how these models operate and everything in this article. I think he basically says that like NVIDIA's moat has 4 components. They're high quality Linux drivers, the CUDA, which I believe is like their unified device architecture and how the chips are constructed. There's the interconnect technology that's kind of linking all the GPUs and giving them that bandwidth. And then lastly, he cites the flywheel effect of them having such enormous margins, right, that they can just rapid invest in new R&D and just kind of stay ahead of the curve. So this article makes, I think, a pretty compelling case for why all of these moats are fully under assault, and it has an interesting few paragraphs at the end on DeepSeek as well. And I know that Jeff, who I just saw was on Bankless apparently today as well. So
Nice.
the guy went from like a few hundred Twitter followers to like it's got all the podcasts now in a couple of days and breaking the entire stock market and nuking my bags. So pretty wild. But yeah, he touches on DeepSeek in this as well, and I think he's pretty bullish on DeepSeek. I know there were some questions on, is this model even legit? He seems to believe it is. I think the open question with the model is, did it actually cost what did they quote, like $6 million or something?
Yeah, there was a bit of a
stupid?
black box in their research report that said like, well, the $6 million figure doesn't include the pre R&D expenses, and I think everyone's wondering like, well, what were those?
Yeah, I mean, there's some conspiracies going around, because I don't even know how conspiratorial it is, because the company, I guess, that built DeepSeek is also a hedge fund.
Yes, yeah, like a quant hedge fund in China.
Yeah, so people were like, step 1, make model. Step 2, lie about costs of model. Step 3, short
NVIDIA. Yes.
Step 4, profit. Use profits to smuggle in more GPUs. I mean, that was kind of the idea some people have been floating, was that they had basically smuggled in a bunch of there are restrictions on China importing these things because we're trying to stay ahead in the AI race. So I think the tinfoil hat idea is that this model was actually trained using a substantial amount of NVIDIA chips, and ergo might not be quite the threat people are making it out to be. But I haven't really seen any definitive evidence either way of that.
Right. I think it's pretty clear that China has been getting their hands on NVIDIA GPUs either through India or Singapore or what have you.
I mean, it seems obvious that they would, right? Like, that's got to be not that bold of a statement. Elon, I saw, was very skeptical of this.
Yeah, I think, but like even if they did, I think there's probably still some cool efficiencies that their new model created, and I think that probably benefits everyone.
Yeah, when everything started nuking, I mean, I had a lot of thoughts running through my head. So obviously the very sort of left curve thing here is, oh, this is bearish NVIDIA. NVIDIA is a huge chunk of the NASDAQ, ergo nuke NASDAQ, right? But then stuff gets like a little weird, because to me it's akin to like imagine something else that's like a precious commodity in the economy. For example, like energy. Like imagine a scenario where basically every major player in the US economy depended on this company, like say they were like an energy manufacturer basically, and they provided energy at like a really like below market cost to everybody, right? And everybody was dependent on them for their business to function, because businesses need energy. And now imagine a scenario comes along where the Chinese invent a way to make the same energy at 1/20th of the cost, and then open source it as though there's a way to open source energy, right? And then you would end up in a scenario where, like, obviously it would be really bullish growth, like if everybody in the economy could suddenly access like abundant, basically free energy. And it would be bearish, probably, the stock that composed a huge chunk of the index that was heretofore before providing said energy. But why would that actually cause sustained sell-off in markets, right? If anything, you would just think that would ignite a massive productivity boom. So does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And I'm still thinking that this might not even be that bearish for NVIDIA. Like, I think NVIDIA even looks cheap today, which is kind of like non-consensus now.
It's becoming kind of like a consensus, non-consensus almost, because I've seen like everybody's their armchair expert now on Twitter, and everybody's throwing around you've seen Jevons paradox.
Oh yeah. I just learned about that because of this situation.
Yeah, which basically like even though you've sort of made this good kind of like irrelevant, it increases the demand for that good so much so that overall the demand for the good and whoever produces it, like they're okay. It's like kind of like we just fill the vacuum. We just fill the need. Like if you give people I guess energy is a good example. Like if you make energy like ridiculously cheap, the demand for it like sometimes actually goes up overall, the net profit in the end goes up overall because like demand increases by such a wide margin because of the new cost effectiveness that it sort of bridges that gap. I explained that so terribly, but I guess that would be the bull case and why NVIDIA might be okay here.
I think
thinking.
It just seems to me like the industry pulled back 19% yesterday, but the addressable market for AI at large probably has grown because of this. And I don't think NVIDIA gets like fully disrupted. I think NVIDIA still plays a role, and we can talk about that. There's definitely plays outside of NVIDIA too that I want to talk about, because NVIDIA is probably getting like a too high a share of the profits of this like incredible industry. And those profits probably do start to leak out to their competitors.
Yeah, I don't know if I am bullish NVIDIA here. Like it might be like an interesting trade, but I think that all of the points in Mr. At Doodlestein's article here, all four of the ones I touched upon they didn't even have anything to do with DeepSeek, right? Like that was sort of a footnote in the article. All of these other sort of legs of the NVIDIA stool are all still under attack. And I'm kind of just a believer in the idea that like markets find a way. Like if you incentivize somebody with like 90% margin and trillions of dollars of economic incentive, like that margin is just going to go away. Like it just has to, right?
Yeah,
And
Bezos.
and if anything, it feels like in the near term, like the immediate knock-on effect has to be, okay, so you've got like Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google, like all these huge companies, right? They're placing enormous orders for these NVIDIA chips, right? But you've got to believe that all of their engineers are like, tearing down the DeepSeek thing now. And if there's this idea that you can actually get a similar output for just like dramatically more efficiency, that's got to put some dent in the demands to buy the NVIDIA hardware, right? You would allocate some resources to a competitor.
So I think that's a good path to walk down right now for our conversation, is like, I think that up until now, NVIDIA GPUs have been used for like training these models and the computation for training the models. As these LLM models have matured, I think the next logical step is like, well, what compute is needed for the inference as you use the model instead of train it? And the NVIDIA GPUs are not like the most efficient way for inference compute. So I guess like my next logical thought was who does win if these models start to transition and mature from training to inference? And I don't know the answer to that. I think it's still probably too early to tell. But what I do know is that whoever wins that game, those chips are going to be fabricated and manufactured by Taiwan Semi and Samsung and Intel, but mostly TSM. And they're going to be built based off of EUV lithography that's wholly owned by a company called ASML. So I think these guys were kind of thrown out with the entire semi industry yesterday, but I don't think they have that like specific NVIDIA risk.
Yeah, I've got the chart for Taiwan Semi up on the screen here. So throw that up. So yeah, like this was actually probably an incredible trading opportunity. I wish I talked to you yesterday. Yeah, you can clearly see just the enormous nuke in Taiwan Semi. And like this looks really good right now, from like a TA perspective. You basically just took like this very juicy high time frame demand zone and just like nuked all the liquidity in it. And it wouldn't shock me if this just basically V recovers at this point and goes up. So that looks like an interesting trade. I mean, we're still even as of today's close, like 10% down from Friday. So Taiwan Semi could be interesting there. What do you think about AMD?
I don't really follow it. I just know that they're like in head-to-head competition with NVIDIA. They've just been losing over and over again. So I don't know. This is not a name that I'm really into.
Mm-hmm. Kind of in an interesting spot as well. Like I feel like if you buy this thing at like 105 or something, it's got to have some pretty decent risk reward there. Kind of out of my my pay grade. I don't want to LARP as a tech expert over here.
Yeah.
We've,
Yeah, I think like you were probably correct when you were talking about the big guys are spending their engineering dollars trying to compete as well. So like Google and Microsoft and Amazon are all building their own competitors to NVIDIA GPUs. And I think when we get as these things mature and we start building like or needing more inference, we probably stop using GPUs. We use like specific ASIC computers. Like I think like Bitcoin mining actually went through the same iterative path where like NVIDIA GPUs were used to Bitcoin mine, and now we use like these very specialized computers called ASICs. And yeah, I think that the winners for that are the Taiwan Semi. Another thing I thought of that's kind of down a different path is like the data center versus the edge compute. So like if AI computation is all happening in the data center right now, like maybe in the future, maybe not so long in the future, that AI computation starts happening on our personal devices. So like your smartphone or what have you. And I think for that narrative, Qualcomm dominates because their Snapdragon system on a chip is probably just dominating the edge compute game.
Mm-hmm. I have an interesting sort of inverse play. I actually gave this out yesterday in Magic Lines, but our old friend Render.
Oh my gosh, I used to own this, I think.
Hello, Darkness, our
Wow.
old friend here. So Render is, well, it's crypto, so it doesn't do anything. But in theory, it does, I think, decentralized GPU rental, where you can basically kind of rent out your GPU, for compute if people need it. So yeah, this kind of like a inverse. Well, it's kind of like correlated with NVIDIA, I guess. Like if we're saying that we don't want the NVIDIA chips, well, we probably definitely don't want these. This
is a short idea.
Yeah, it's been a short idea. I hedged some of the portfolio yesterday with it, and it is nuking pretty hard.
Nice.
At this point. Yeah.
I actually
don't
meant
even know
to
where
ask,
you'd get in it at this point. I think if you can get a little retrace somehow back in the sixes, maybe you can ride this down.
I actually meant to ask, like, how much did this bleed into the crypto space, this big pullback in semi stocks?
I mean, a lot. You can see it, even on the Bitcoin chart. I mean, this is Sunday night right here, and we just basically insta nuked.
Funny how like all risk assets just do that together for no freaking reason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like I'm definitely bullish on Bitcoin here. It's FOMC tomorrow, which means a couple of things, right? On the one hand, anything can happen. Like Powell could just say something and we go up or we go down. So prognosticating price action over the next week with that tomorrow just seems sort of foolhardy, right?
I agree. Yeah.
But like if I zoom out on the Bitcoin chart, I mean, there is nothing about it that looks particularly bearish to me. And people are just freaking out on crypto Twitter. I mean, people overown alts, obviously. Like everybody listening to this pod probably owns too many altcoins. And altcoins are just garbage until they do QE again, until global liquidity starts ticking back up, right? They just are. And we've been in this just mega bearish liquidity regime for years at this point, and just kind of gotten used to the beatings. But like Bitcoin to me is just like this 100K level. That was kind of the range before, right? That was like and we kind of deviated above it and above it. And people are expecting this, I think, to be another one. Ansem's calling for 75K. Oof. Until that happens, like this whole thing to me just looks like Wyckoff reaccumulation. You know, you had your buying climax and your secondary tests and your up thrusts and all that good shit. But then there's like no actual real sign of weakness, right? You don't get any closes below this level. And then here's your creek, and then there's your jump across the creek, right? And when you're doing Wyckoff,
I love this stuff. This is great.
this is like Wyckoff. You've got the creek, right? You've got a spring. We've jumped across the creek. We're just holding above 100K right now. And we just kind of ran some liquidity like earlier this week. And I think until we close like under 100K, I just like think this is destined to go higher. Obviously, Jerome could kill my dreams tomorrow, but like I don't see the need for massive panic in the market, like especially as it pertains to Bitcoin.
What does a Wyckoff pattern suggest the following moves look like if you were to like plot that out?
In terms of like projecting,
Yeah.
I don't know that Wyckoff does projections. I'm a bit of a Wyckoff LARP, to be honest, but I find it at a high level to be somewhat useful as a framework in crypto. I mean, I was originally projecting like 120 to 130 or so for this leg. It wouldn't shock me, honestly, if we like broke out and people were like, woo, and then we did that and then went up.
Yeah.
That would be the ultimate fuckery, but I think it's super plausible.
Dude,
that it
thinking
could
about
happen.
like just this week in general, like even dating back to our last recording together, which was our last Alpha pod. Think about just like the volatility we've experienced based on the narratives that have come forth. The Stargate news that said that they were going to spend $500 billion on like AI, CapEx, and then followed by this other news from DeepSeek that says like, oh, no more CapEx. Then you have like FOMC tomorrow. We've got like corporate earnings. I just feel like this is like peak fuckery time, and maybe we just like end where we started, just like despite all this volatility.
Yeah, it's worth noting that if you pull up a Bitcoin chart and you plot the FOMC meeting on it, it pretty much sells off into it every single meeting. And I think every single meeting, but like one over the last, I don't know if it's been 1 or 2 years or however many times, like we go up after like this. So there's nothing weird going on here. And if anything, like the fact that all this dumping has happened pre-meeting and Bitcoin is still holding 100, like it feels pretty bullish to me, honestly. Like gun to my head, I think we go a lot higher after the meeting. But like I said, I hate just putting all of my faith in the hands of this random dude who just apparently controls all the markets, which is stupid. So I'm kind of cautiously bullish, right? I'm pretty long, but sitting with some cash, and it's the end of the month too, so there's going to be fuckery at the end of the month and the start of February, right? So maybe like second week of February, it's my hope that we can kind of have a nice up move and a few, God, at least a few strong weeks of outperformance there.
Can we talk about this idea of what it would look like to hold just like a Bitcoin only portfolio, and how to protect against that maybe? Because on our last Irresponsibly Long, we described how a lot of traders or investors or whoever don't necessarily beat just holding Bitcoin. And the reason is because most people are risk averse and don't want to like experience 80% drawdowns that you would if you just like full port Bitcoin. So I was thinking since then, I was like, well, how would I design it if I were to just be like all Bitcoin all the time? And I think it reminded me of a guy who you introduced me to, Spitznagel, who is like a hedge fund manager that I guess their credo is kind of like protect yourself protect yourself from black swans so you can take way more risk in the portfolio on the long side. So I was thinking, how would I do that with Bitcoin? And I was thinking about the idea of like starting with puts, like you buy puts against your position for a year out, and you continuously do that. So that's like the simplest strategy is you buy puts 1 year out at 30% out of the money. So that's your max loss, 30% drawdown. And I chose that number. It's kind of arbitrary, but I chose that number because that's like probably the worst drawdown you would see in the S&P 500 in like a bear market. So I think I would kind of like cap my Bitcoin holdings to be like S&P risk essentially. And I was calculating, I don't have the options chain in front of me, but I was calculating how much that would cost. And for a 1 year maturity, that costs about 6% of the position, which is pretty expensive. Like for buying insurance, it's expensive. So then I was thinking like, well, how do I bring that cost down? Well, I can actually make the cost zero if I sell a call on the upside 100% out of the money. So that's the next leg of the strategy. It's like you continuously roll both of those legs over every year so that you give yourself 100% upside and 30% downside. And I was thinking like, that's pretty good actually. That's definitely better than like just long S&P.
That sounds almost too good to be true. So you're saying we sell a call up here
Yeah,
at about
100%.
200.
Yep.
And then we buy a put down here at about 71K, which is kind of an interesting level actually too. And that's it?
And those two legs offset each other. Like the amount you receive from selling the call is the same as the amount you pay for buying the put. And I was thinking about this, and I actually brought it up to Nick after our Alfalfa recording. He's like, I don't want to give up my upside, but 100% per year is pretty good upside still.
Wait, 100% is the same premium as a put?
30% down.
30% of the down?
It's pretty good. I like this. I mean, I'm not going to go full portfolio Bitcoin, but I was thinking I would probably do this if I was.
Okay, so you basically lock in no more than a 30% drawdown, and then you lock in no more than a 100% gain. But doing this would allow you to basically size up. So instead of like, oh, I only want to put 5% in because you're worried about losing 90% of your portfolio, maybe you could put 20 or 30 or 40 in. All right. It's an interesting idea. I like it. Do we have defined outcome ETFs for Bitcoin yet? Probably not, right?
I don't think so, but I thought
those are an
they'd be
inevitability,
interesting.
I assume.
Yeah, they should be coming.
That's a pretty popular trend in general in TradFi right now, right? These defined.
Definitely, and I like even the convertibles that like MicroStrategy's selling is kind of like defined in their outcomes because you have like zero down. I mean, you have like bond downside, which is like 0% coupon return, but your principal back. I was thinking like those are pretty compelling to investors. Like, shouldn't that be available to even retail people? You get like Bitcoin upside over a hurdle rate, but then you get your principal back on the downside. That's pretty cool.
It's cool. I like it. Speaking of which, did you see that we had two separate announcements of an on-chain MicroStrategy this week for ETH?
I did see that. Is that having an effect? Has that gone into effect yet?
It has not gone into effect yet. I know they're both called ETH strategy actually.
Nice.
I know that Justin Bram launched one and or announced the launch of one, and then there's this other account that Sasano tweeted, which I'm pretty sure is a separate project. Got me thinking. I mean, that it could be like an interesting meta to keep your eye on. Like this is like the new trend, you know, like in the original DeFi bubble, we just did like Ohm Ponzi's. You remember Ohm?
Yes, yeah.
Which was just literally a Ponzi, but we pretended it wasn't somehow.
Right.
Smart people wrote about how it was not actually a Ponzi. Maybe this is just like a more sophisticated version of it that actually pumps all of our bags.
You said it's...
Yeah, it's done entirely on chain. I don't know if there's docs out yet with like a detailed explanation of what's going on, but the TLDR would basically be that I guess they're creating some sort of basically convertible debt on chain, and you would be able to basically buy the convertible debt for ETH and basically lock in some upside with no downside.
Dude, this is exactly what I was asking for, is like bringing this trade to retail. And apparently crypto's doing it. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's an interesting question though, of like this might be like the ultimate mid thing though, right? Because like everybody who's on chain in like a degen probably doesn't want to buy the the
Yeah,
convertible, and the
right.
market for convertible debt like might not go on chain and buy it
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. So that's kind of my fear in all of it, that it doesn't actually really amount to anything, because the flows that would come in to purchase this sort of almost defined outcome asset are just, they're not going to go on chain.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's a shame, but I think you're right because like the people who buy these converts are not degens typically.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that was hinted at was, I mean, there were some whispers that Joe Lubin was basically going to effectively take consensus public and then run the MicroStrategy
Oh my
on
God.
consensus, and that I
That's
think could work.
that could definitely work. I'm so excited for that.
The main problem I see there is that Ethereum is a stable coin with no volatility. So
Yeah.
I don't know that there's going to be outsized demand for that debt relative to Bitcoin. So who knows, but interesting times nonetheless.
Yeah, it's reason for optimism, at least.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic on ETH. It's been pretty rough, obviously. It's one of the few like kind of like leverage plays I have open right now, just because I don't want to get fucked with too much in the market, and there's like pretty deep liquidity on ETH. You can be kind of nimble on it and just get the hell out if things look ugly. Not a great time to be sitting with like 15 different shitcoin perps open.
Do you think that ETH has become sort of non-consensus, or is everybody just kind of like a bag holder from the last cycle?
I think it's getting close. Obviously, we had the dot. You saw the dot ETHs remove their name,
Right, right.
and I added mine in solidarity, trying to just do my part. I mean, the trade looks interesting to me from a technical perspective. I feel pretty good about it at this level. It's tough because if some cracks open up in the larger system, I feel like it's going to 2400 or 2200 or something. But even then, I still think that's like still like great a great level. I almost sort of think like ETH does need that sort of like really mega uber liquidation to get us high. I mean, this is something that Ben Cohen has been saying actually, is that because ETH never came home, never fully went home, it never had that like Solana-esque massive capitulation where everybody just sold, and then like the big boys filled up the bags, and right, we're kind of stuck in between these two worlds right now. So
Do you think that
yeah,
the level you're describing, 2200 or whatever, would that represent ETH coming home now? You know, because it's on a log chart, right?
yeah, I don't know if ETH is home yet there.
Still like halfway home. Yikes.
Maybe I think there's an ETH regression band indicator, right? I can't remember the name of it though. Do I have it on here? I'll give myself 1 second. Yeah, fuck it, I can't find it.
Yeah, we can look it up later.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. TLDR there. I don't know. So ETH's been kind of just in the back of my brain, but mostly just focused on Bitcoin. XRP sadly still just looks like so much stronger than ETH.
My
Bro,
gosh.
the XRP candle yesterday was insane, right? You see this XRP daily candle?
It's just a
That
wick.
is how you do a sell off right there. You just mega wick and then close the day higher, right?
It closed higher. That's
That's what
amazing.
a real candle looks like. This is what a beta soy cuck candle looks like right here. God,
Damn.
spot the difference. Yeah, XRP objectively stronger, I would say, in the short term. It's a crime cycle, man. It's like Bitcoin and crime barbell. the coin and crime barbell. And for that reason, so last week, best trade in Magic Lines was Jupiter, and we caught like such an epic move.
But yeah, that was a great call.
Oh,
Damn.
baby. I think we bought this thing at like 78 cents and then got a immediate 65% move. So that was pretty epic. I mean, zooming out on the Jupe chart, I mean, it still looks very interesting to me. I mean, we've basically gone sideways for almost an entire year, just building this base. And I don't know if you saw, but Jupiter had a big event Friday or Saturday, which is the catalyst for this. I mean, they announced a burn of like 30% of the supply.
Wow.
And then a buyback and burn thing moving forward. Yeah, I think 50% of fees. And then they also announced JupeNet, which I guess is supposed to be this sort of like multi-chain like aggregation layer, basically trying to abstract all of the stupidity of crypto away from the user and just focus on giving users like just this app that lets them trade and doesn't have them worry about anything else, which I think is pretty smart and pretty freaking bullish.
Damn, the amount of trading volume that's happening on Solana and Jupiter right now, I think that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like this is basically the casino infrastructure. Jupiter and Radium are basically the infrastructure for the casino chain. I think Solana at this point I think they're doing like 94% of all meme volume. So if you're kind of bullish on the crime cycle and you think we'll ultimately see this final wave of all sorts of tokens we don't want to see, look, I think we know in our heart of hearts that that's what the normies are going to come on chain and buy. They're going to buy the stupidity. They're going to buy Trump coin. So I like Jupe because it allows you to be smart and dumb at the same time. It's like the perfect bridge of these worlds. So
that looks good, man.
Yeah, hanging on to that bad boy. Hopefully we get a $4 price in the not too distant future. Other thing I did this week, a huge announcement. I became a Fartcoin holder.
No way.
Yes, I am in. As of last night, I'm buying my bag. This is such a funny chart, dude. It's just like the volatility is insane in this thing.
What is going on here? This is
immediately up 300% and then like immediately down like 80%. It is so funny.
But it looks pretty clean, like
it looks pretty clean, yeah. I like buying around here in this kind of 80-cent level. I think it's pretty good. A lot comes down to what happens tomorrow, I think. There's definitely a world where Powell got stiff-armed by Besant and Trump somehow, and he does like a ill-advised pivot, and then we go kind of full retard mode. And this coin to me is basically just the embodiment of everything that is stupid with the space. But it's also stupid in like a non-criminal sense, so I can kind of get behind it a little more, feel good about it. I also think there's a world where this just goes back into the 20s, so I would not be.
So when you set up a trade like this, do you have like a stop loss set up typically, or you just monitor it in real time?
I mean, a trade like this where I'm just establishing a spot position with kind of like a longer term thesis, I kind of have like a loose stop, Like I don't really want to see price like accepting too much below like 67 cents or something. There is a possibility that this thing could maybe run this low at 67 or something and then go up and leave this one intact. But I really want to see the 67 cents or so. I really want to see that hold, because if it doesn't, there's definitely a world where this was just the blow off, right? And then maybe it complacency bounces and goes on the euthanasia roller coaster. And then good game. This is what like so many memes look like right now. It's rough. It's been interesting. I mean, You've seen the anatomy of a bubble chart, right? Very
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
Oh, I still have the other tab up. So here's your bubble, right? What's interesting about this cycle is that everything is not in unison.
Right. Right.
Like there's different asset classes within crypto that are in different stages of the bubble, right? Like Bitcoin, I would argue, is basically in enthusiasm. So I still think we have like the greed, delusion, new paradigm ahead of us,
I agree.
which is a nice thing to look forward to. Like I think the bear trap was this summer, right? So I think we get that out of the way. So that's looking pretty good. I think most altcoins in aggregate are basically still climbing the wall of worry. So they're still coming out of depression, right? Maybe we just did the bear trap on them. I kind of think when you look at stuff like the kind of quote unquote utility tokens, the useful tokens, your Uniswaps, your Athenas, your Lidos of the world, kind of get the vibe that we're in like the bear trap phase right now, which is good because there's significant upside from there. But then you've got stuff like AI. I don't own a lot of AI because I've been saying for a while. Like I mean, I sold most everything at the beginning of January, which was maybe a little bit lucky, but I think the AI has already done the complacency shoulder and it's like full scale capitulation right now. And I think people are still buying AI tokens thinking it's just like a dip or something. But like I see a world where AI is just down for a while. This is kind of what you saw with DeFi last bubble. Like
That's so
DeFi
right. It just
blew a
never
top
came
off
back.
before ETH even did anything, and it just never came back. So I think AI coins will come back, and actually, it's interesting because I think the events of DeepSeek they should be bullish AI coins, right? Because these coins they'll just rely on it's just all on the model layer, right? So having a model layer that's cheaper and more efficient should be bullish these things. So kind of interesting that they all just dumped on that news anyway. So I'm like open to that possibility, but I think overweighting like everybody's still hyping AI. I think overweighting your portfolio to that is probably a
Yeah,
bad
I kind of believe in
idea.
this DeFi narrative that you're speaking of.
At least I can see like the upside all in front. I haven't seen a blow off top or anything. Not even close. I haven't even seen enthusiasm. I still just see anxiety, right? I still just see people. I still see what's the quote? This rally will fail like the others. That's like where we're at right now. I think with the larger altcoins, but especially like these. And then you have meme coins, which have already, I think, fully gone through the depression phase at this point. The new paradigm in retrospect was very obviously when Murad did the PowerPoint presentation on how memes are a new asset class. So we're going to have multiple $100 billion meme coins.
Still might.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I'm kind of like bullish memes in general because I do think if you are in the depression phase, that's actually like an interesting time to accumulate.
And what meme coin is like winning mind share right now? I don't mean biggest like market cap, but like what's sort of like most popular on crypto
I mean,
Twitter?
Trump and Fartcoin have got to be like the big ones, right? I mean, the bull case for Trump is like pretty basic, right? Like if you believe that all of crypto is just a game of attention, I mean, Trump has more attention than anything on planet Earth, probably. So like if I wanted to, like I could make you like a really fucking dumb case on why Trump coin goes to $1 trillion. Because if you just believe some like absurd thing that is like somewhat rooted in reality, which is that this entire like Bitcoin is a meme coin, right? It is. It's the
Yeah.
best meme coin. It's got some properties that like meme coins don't have that are good. We won't get into the details there, but Bitcoin is largely a meme. There's no revenues, there's no cash flows. It's more of a meme than something like Uniswap is, I would argue. So if the biggest meme in the world is Trump, and like you end up at a $10 trillion crypto bubble, like it doesn't seem ridiculous to say that, oh, Trump coin goes to $1 trillion. If like the space just goes full nihilism and just takes everything to the logical conclusion of all this is fucking stupid and useless and it all trades on attention. So let's just all coalesce around the largest meme and do a giant Ponzi scheme and just try to make each other rich. Then like you can paint a picture where something dumb like that happens. Do I think Trump goes to $1 trillion? No, I want to be clear. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think the possibility is non-zero. And I think on the way from here to $1 trillion, there's some pretty big numbers. Like, do I think Trump can go to 100 billion? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
it almost did already, right? In terms of
already went to 70, right? Definitely probable. And the problem with Trump is that like attention is zero sum, right? There are other areas of the economy. This is the thing about stocks, right? Is that stocks and businesses in the larger economy, they create value that is like accretive to other areas of the economy. And like you end up with this game that is not zero sum, it's positive sum. Like somebody else's business creates more value that goes into other businesses that create more value. And there's this like virtuous cycle. Whereas like you're working with a finite pool of attention and you can onboard more attention, but there's like a ceiling to that. And who are the people who are going to be onboarded and what are they going to be onboarded for and what are they going to want to buy? Right? Like I would argue that a lot of the people who will be onboarded, they're not going to want to buy like SPX 6900 or Giga or whatever these other kind of, 4chan memes are, right? They're probably going to buy like Shiba Inu again. And they're probably going to buy like Floki or some dumb shit. Like they buy like, they're going to log into their Coinbase account and just like see some coins they still have and just buy them again, right? Although they'll be onboarded to buy Trump, right? Or maybe I can see a world where they get onboarded to buy something like Fartcoin, because what's interesting about Fartcoin and Trump is that they both have this sort of reflexive attention mechanism built into it.
Of course.
Like Trump coin is so scammy and it's so inevitable that the media is going to glob onto this narrative that Saudi Arabia can bribe Trump by buying his coin or something like that. There's all these narratives of impropriety that are going to be latched onto by the media because they hate Trump, and also because some of these criticisms are in fact warranted. But in doing so, it's going to be this sort of like Streisand effect where they're going to pump the thing that they don't want to go up by giving it so much attention, which is basically what they did with Trump himself. So you're just sort of like financializing this into a token. It's like a way of financializing the betting on the media kind of going TDS again. It's like bullish TDS. The more TDS there is, the more it's focused around this coin, the higher the price goes.
I could definitely see that reflexivity, but I also, something inside me says that like the vast majority of folks just like don't want to play in the meme games at all. And like Bitcoin is enough of a meme for the average person. Like just like crossing that chasm by Bitcoin doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be like, oh, now I got to buy fart or something.
Bro, my counter to that would be that anecdotally, I've probably had 50 people talk to me about coming into crypto in the last month. And I would say 2 of those 50 people expressed interest in buying Bitcoin.
It's all Trump.
They all wanted to buy memes. Like every single one was like, what meme do I buy? That was it. So
I guess.
Yeah, I would push back on that narrative. I mean, Bitcoin is going to go up because it's going to get flows from like legitimate like institutional areas or like sovereign nations and shit like that. And that's great. And that's good. And that's all sustainable. The rest of this comes from late stage retail. And like, what does late stage retail want to buy? Do they want to buy AI 16Z? Like, probably not. It's probably too obscure. Like, just want to buy the dog thing, or they want to buy the Trump coin.
Whatever's working, I think, because these guys, I think like late stage retail doesn't find it like fun necessarily. Like they don't find the memes fun. They're just saying like, how can I make money? Quick money. And so it's just like whatever's winning at the time. That's what they want.
Yeah, but like, there's also like a difficulty factor. It's just hard to buy these other memes.
It's really hard.
whereas you're gonna have like Trump on Robinhood or Kraken or like all these other old meme coins will be there.
Exactly.
Something like Pepe is kind of the I'm not sure of, because that kind of sits in between the intersection of like crypto and pop culture in a particular way. So I don't have a strong opinion on that, but I do have I think you can't be bullish on memes and think that a basket of entirely Trump coin and Fartcoin doesn't do well. Because like if those don't do well, I feel like the entire thesis behind why memes go up is just simply not playing out. And like Fartcoin especially is going to have the same Trump effect, right? People can't stop talking about it because of how dumb it is. And like once it starts turbo pumping because like liquidity reverses or something, or the Powell pivots, then all everybody in the media is going to point to is like Fartcoin as the sort of the epitome of financial stupidity and the negative side effects of Powell or Trump economic policy, basically. And that's going to just cause more people to put eyeballs on it and want to buy it, because it's also an accessible meme. Like it's like everybody farts, but like who knows what a dog with a hat is and why it's.
But I do think that we are leaving out an obvious one, which is Doge, which kind of plays along that same like government attention, but is like so ingrained in everybody's mind. It's easy to acquire on Robinhood or whatever. I think Doge belongs in this conversation.
It belongs in the convo and probably does okay. The problem Doge has is it's just so big already, and it's hard for people to envision getting rich off of it. And I think that's going to cause it to suffer in and of itself. Open to being wrong on that. Anyway, I want to pivot and end this with we talked a little bit about bubbles, where we are in the cycle, and we talked about people calling tops left and right. And I just wanted to shine some light on a good article that came across my my Twitter feed, if people want to check it out. So this is by Ostium Labs on Twitter. It's called Schrodinger's Cycle Top. And this is a nice piece because it goes through a ton of data points that are supportive of this being basically like a mid-stage cycle that is sort of about to enter its like phase of stupidity. And I think you and I know that the stupidity is where like most of the money is made. And in a perfect world, positioning yourself right before the stupidity begins is like sort of the point of maximum risk reward, because once the stupidity like really starts taking off, things move really fast and positioning becomes hard because your drawdowns, your risk starts growing and growing and growing and growing, and then the reward gets less and less and less and less. So this is why I'm paying so much attention right now. Let's go over a couple of them because I think they're super important.
Awesome.
Point one, global liquidity. We've been talking about this briefly. Been down only for years, right? But now at an inflection point, seems to be turning. I know Raul Paul has cited this along with some other people who I think are smarter than him. Global M2 definitely seems to have bottomed and ticking up. You can kind of see the Bitcoin chart in tandem with these, and it's just a very clean correlation. Yeah, let's look over some others that are a little easier to grok. This one I hadn't seen before, actually. Two over
that's
DXY.
That's like in dollar terms, like M2, global M2 in dollar terms, or what?
So this is the domestic money supply as a ratio of the dollar index.
Oh, interesting.
Which I hadn't seen anybody do before. But this one looks pretty clean and looks pretty fucking bullish. Typically, when you put in this bottom and go to like a new high, you see Bitcoin just go turbo pump. I think the author basically said that we're probably not going to go to a new high here because it was the COVID high, but there's this kind of local high from 2024, and then breaking that's going to kind of be the Bitcoin parabolic move. Inverse dollar, we talk about this one a lot. The dollar does look very close to a top to me. I've been looking at this for a bit. Dollar yuan, which I hadn't looked at. This one's very clean because perfectly correlates bottoms on the dollar yuan with Bitcoin mega runs. And this is like a very clear bottom to me on the chart. I mean, this looks like a perfect little inverted head and shoulders forming there. So definitely keep an eye on that one. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. Can I zoom in on this? Make it a little more visible?
That's helpful.
Oh God, I've got my messages open here. Oh no. I don't know how to turn that off. What am I doing? There we go. All right, it's probably nothing crazy in there anyway. It's all good. Let's see. Reserve balances looks good. Oh, this is an interesting one. Copper gold ratio. You ever heard of this?
No, but I guess it would imply like useful metal versus like store value metal. So like there's like business implications there.
Yeah, I guess when copper is really, really expensive relative to the gold, it would sort of imply like a top in economic demand. And we seem to be bottomed here. Again, little inverse head and shoulders. So that looks really, really good. What else was good here? I want to go through all of them. There's so many, actually. I got very bullish reading this.
Yeah, this sounds amazing. We got to put this in our show notes or something because I want to read it thoroughly.
This one was pretty interesting to me. I saw a chart of manufacturing new orders, the PMI, like upticks in the PMI and manufacturing new orders. I think these are related. Perfectly correlate with like Bitcoin mega expansion. US ISM and business optimism index. There's so much here. I'm going to find like one more I think that is really, really important. And this is the on-chain indicators. Basically every single on-chain indicator is at sort of like April 2017, December 2020 levels. In April 2017, December 2020 were pretty good times to be getting in the market and about to, we were like about to take off really, really hard at that point in altcoin lands. Everything from a data point like looks pretty good to me, and there seems to be like a pretty solid misalignment between the data and sentiment, and it's just very odd to me that we would top as everybody is calling the top while all of the data looks kind of honestly like lukewarm and not even hot yet.
Yeah, it looks really, really reason to be bullish and irresponsibly long.
Yeah, well, maybe this is the time to be responsibly long.
Never.
You know, I don't. It's yeah. It is undoubtedly a little bit of a weird time right now, and Bitcoin could go to 75K. We could still be mega bullish, and it's probably just a screaming buy opportunity, right? So, although that is a probability, it's not my base case, and I think the overall what you're really trying to avoid in crypto is just like not getting out before you end up having 3 years of darkness. And I think that's the main risk. I think most people are okay like eating even a 50% drawdown if they know that the 3 or 4x or 5x is kind of like right around the corner. The problem is like eating that drawdown and then having it turn into a 70-80% drawdown and then just years of depression you can never get out of. That's the thing you want to avoid, and I just don't see that. And I think even like a financial black swan right now is going to be followed up by QE, and when QE comes back, it's all season, baby. So as long as you don't liquidate yourself, I think we just got to hang on and stay in the game, and everything's going to be all right.
Maybe we get QE tomorrow. Maybe
a guy can dream. Can't wait to see what actually plays out. Anyway, quick little plug here before we end, because this is an important announcement. Magic Lines. This is the final week that you can become an OG lifetime discounted member. magiclines.xyz/IL and use code IL75 for the monthly and IL800 for the annual. Get that lifetime discount. Lock it in. Prices are finally going up, Eric. We got a big crew in here. We got 113 guys on the Discord right now. It's getting crowded.
It's your last chance, folks. Get in there. Get in there.
It's Value Town USA right now. We gotta bring those. It's too cheap. It's too cheap. We're gonna bring it commensurate with the value being delivered. Anyway, big thank you to those of you who have joined. It's been really fun so far. It's been a pretty cool journey. Been a wild experience for me for sure. But yeah, we're at about an hour. I think we'll wrap it there. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you have not. Give me a follow and Eric a follow on X. We got our handles in the description there. And if you just want a free community to hang out with people, talk about life, talk about money, we're in the Alfalfa Pod Discord. That is alfalfapod.com. You can find the Discord there. Yeah, definitely check out our other podcasts too. We're going to do we have a lot to talk about tomorrow, I'm sure, because it's been a crazy week as per usual in this modern era. Never a dull moment. Well, let's wrap it there.
Yeah, it's been great talking, bud.
Yeah, always a pleasure. We will see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Later, everybody.